Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Barditchev asked his gabbai, could you please go check and see if you could find me any of this tobacco? Now this tobacco was illegal. The king made a decree, you can't have this tobacco. The gabbai went around searching and searching, was willing to pay high prices. 5 times the price, 10 times the price. After a half hour, came back and said, Rebbe, I can't find... came back to the Rebbe and said, I found it. Here's some tobacco. The Kedushas Levi said, I know that it's Erev Yom Tif. I know it's Erev Pesach, you're busy. Could you go please check and see if you could get from me, from a Yiddish house, a piece of chametz? The guy went high and low, and he was willing to pay the highest price. He couldn't find a piece of chametz. And Kedushas Levi turned to Shamayim and said, Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, look how special your children are. A king of flesh and blood, of Basar V'Dam, made a decree, and you can still get it on the black market. But you said there shouldn't be one crumb. You can't find a crumb in any house, any Jewish house. And this is what our parsha is discussing. It says the Alter Rebbe, we're discussing that an infinite God cares if there's a crumb of chametz in my house on Pesach. That I say Shema in the morning, that I give tzedakah, that I put on tefillin. You would think that Hashem's main Shechina, first of all, if Hashem wants to rest, where would He rest? He should rest in the heavens. But even the heavens can't contain Hashem. Like Shlomo Melech said, Hashmayim Mishmei Hashemayim Lili Chalkalucha. V'af Ke Abayis Hazeh. When he built the Beis Hamikdash, he said, the heavens of the heavens can't contain your awesomeness and your greatness. It's Ein Sof. Hashem is unlimited. His light is unlimited. Forget about Him Himself. And yet, Hashem said, I want to live in you. Now, I think to myself, even with people, with Yidden, Hashem would want to live with a big tzaddik. He would want to live with somebody who's spiritually in me, with my lowness and my dirty mind, and I'm not so holy. Hashem wants to live in me. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, why Hashem specifically wants to dwell in your tachtoinim, in your dirty mind, in your lowliness. We're holding now the Torah, holding a new sefer. It's really the same volume, but for technical reasons, printing reasons, and censorship, it just has a different name, Likutei Torah. We're on page Gimel. First, when you open the sefer, first is going to be Parshas Beshalach, and then there's going to be page Gimel, Pikudie. Amud Aleph. Torah says in this week's Parsha, Eila Pikudie HaMishkan, Mishkan Eidos V'Gemer. These are the laws of the Mishkan. The Mishkan of testimony, the Mishkan that testifies, our sages Chachamim tell us, Eidos Hi L'Baya Olam, the Mishkan is a testimony, it's proof to the world that I chose the Jewish people. Because you come to the Mishkan, you see the Shechina Sheira there, you see the Shechina is resting there, you know God chose the Jewish people. In Yedua, Hakushi B'Mikrayis Eilu, it's known, the question says Alter Rebbe in these psukim, Mishkan, Mishkan, Shnei Pamim. Why does it say Mishkan twice? It should have said Eilem, Pikudie HaMishkan, HaEidus. These are the instructions that was through Moshe. It should have said that Moshe commanded. The instructions that through Moshe. Why does it mention the Levim? The Levim's job with the Mishkan was just by carrying. The Kohen's job was with actual, when the Mishkan was set up, when they were camped, the Kohen would do the avodah in the Mishkan. But for when they're traveling, the traveling is for the Levim. Why are you mentioning Levim, avodas Levim, when you're building the Mishkan? That's not l'chayr the avodah of the Levim. Why does it mention the work of the Levim, which was through Isamar? It's also through Elazar. Why doesn't it mention Elazar? Only in Isamar. And the Alshich, the Alter Rebbe says, the Alshich answers these questions. But we're now want to go into a chasidus taich. Says the Alter Rebbe, and the idea is what's the idea of a Mishkan? The idea of the Mishkan is that Hashem's Shechina, His divine presence, rests within the Jewish people. Like it says in the pasuk, Hashem said, "Make me a mikdash, and I will dwell in them." Uksiv, and which the Medrash says, it doesn't say in it, which is one Mishkan. It says v'soicham, plural. And every single Jew Hashem is going to rest. It says in the pasuk, they are the antechamber of Hashem, meaning the Jewish people. You are a heichal, you are a chamber for Hashem's holiness. This is, how do we understand this? Like our Chachamim tell us, Hashem had a desire to dwell specifically in a low place. So we have to understand. Okay, so this Hashem wants to dwell in the low place. That's a separate discussion. But what does it mean that Hashem dwells in the lower place? As if before he wasn't there. The pasuk says, Hashem's glory fills the entire world. So why does he have to dwell here if he's here the whole time? But the idea is, so Hashem is in the world the whole time. Hashem's in my apartment the whole time. He's in my car. When it says Hashem wants to dwell in it, Hashem wants to be revealed in my house. I know if you have a guest and you don't treat the guest nice, the guest is not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to want to come to your house again. So if you want Hashem to come to my house, I have to treat Hashem nicely. Where does Hashem want to reveal himself? Specifically in the lower realms. When it says tachtoinim, it doesn't mean literally in a lower place. It means a lower level of consciousness. The reason why it can be space is because when we think about space, it's because I'm a human being. I'm an neshama beguf, and therefore I take up space. If I'm in one place, it can't be another place. When I think higher and lower, I think the basement, the sub-basement, first floor, second floor, third floor. But the Eibishter, we're going to say in like 3 weeks, in the Haggadah, the night of the Seder, Baruch HaMakim, blessed is Hashem. Hashem is, one of Hashem's names is HaMakim, because Hashem, the Chachamim tell us, Hashem doesn't take up space. The world is in Hashem, so to speak. Not that Hashem is taking up space in the world. Because Hashem is not in the realm of space. When it says higher and lower, it means higher in madrega, which for the context of this maamar, we'll call it higher in consciousness. The lower a world means, in other words, higher worlds and lower worlds. We spoke a few weeks ago about the 4 worlds, Atzilus, Beriah, Yetzirah, Asiyah, and I made a chart, one's higher, one's lower. And the reason why I made the chart, which is very controversial, for this reason we're going to discuss right now, is just that you should some people, when they visualize something, they're able to see it. But there are Hasidic masters and mashpiyim that say, no, you should not make a physical chart. Why not? Because when you make a physical chart, you're indicating that the world's level of holiness and lower level of holiness is spatial. It's not spatial. Meaning to say that in the same space you're sitting now, you have, I don't know if you have the option, but there are some people, if there was a tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, for example, who was living in your space, your physical space, he would not be living in the physical world of Asiyah. He would be living in the world of Atzilus, because Atzilus is a consciousness. What does it mean, a consciousness? It's a madrega, it's a level. It's a consciousness that I'm aware of the real reality. Think about it in a very practical sense. The mashal we gave of Soiviv and Memale, that Soiviv is like cellular waves. And Memale is the actual, when I call your phone or I send a WhatsApp to your phone, that's Memale Kalalman. So take that mashal as an example. When you're sitting in your room, you're driving in your car, you're walking in the street, you're in your office, the cellular waves are there the whole time. It's not pshat that the cellular waves are in a different galaxy, and when you open your phone and you answer the phone, now all of a sudden you're going to a higher level spatially. No, you're on the same space physically. The only difference is that before the message was sent to my phone, before I answered the phone, the message came to my phone directly. Now I'm conscious of the message. But the whole time there are messages and phone conversations, people screaming, people being nice to someone else, supporting a friend, borrowing money, helping a person out. This is all happening around you, but I'm not aware of it because my ears cannot pick up the frequency of radio waves or cellular waves. So too, that's a mashal. When we say a higher world or a lower world, it doesn't mean in physical spatial space. It means in madrega, in consciousness. Like it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, why was he called Moshe? The pasuk says, Kimin hamayim mishisihu. He came from the mayim. This is the reason why a person's on a lower level of consciousness, Because normally there's a process, and we go through 4 worlds before we come into the physical world. We go to the world of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, Bria, and then Asiyah Ruchni. Then we come to Asiyah Gashmi. So the time my neshama comes into this world, it already was processed, and it has like filters and doesn't have the full sense of consciousness that it had when it was Chotzu Mitachas Kisi Yaakov. So b'meila vos. So b'meila zok dalter Rebbe. When I say Dira B'tachtoinim, it means in a lower level of consciousness. Because the challenge I have the whole time, I tell myself, if I was in a higher level of consciousness, then I could bring Hashem more into my life. The more holier I am, the more I'm aware of spirituality. What does it mean a higher level of consciousness in a practical sense? Practical sense is that a lower level of consciousness is the olam b'pshitis v'lekus b'schachus. I think that physicality, any input I could accept with my 5 senses, if I could see it, if I could taste it, if I could smell it, if I could hear it, if I could see it, smell it, taste it, hear it, or feel it, then I know it's real. Anything else, I'm not aware of it. I'm going to have to meditate about it, be mizboinin, and become a conscious of it. But even then, it's not such a real consciousness as Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, Kiminamayim Mishisiyu, he came from the world of Atzilus straight into our physical world, and the Memela, the world didn't cover up itself on the godliness. Moshe Rabbeinu saw that Hashem is running the world, Hashem is creating the world from nothing to something. This physical world is the lowest in level of consciousness. It's the lowest level of all the chain reaction of all the world. Therefore, what does it mean practically? That the higher world, there's more revelation, more revealed of godliness. As you go down the channel of the Seder of Ishtalshalos, there's less and less consciousness. I'm less conscious because the light is darker. And therefore, being conscious, the word he uses is asagas, which is grasping. I'm going to use the word conscious, being aware and being able to understand that there's more than just a physical experience, becomes much, much harder. And darkness covers the earth. Doesn't mean physical darkness, it means spiritual darkness. That I don't realize that everything's coming from Hashem. And like I said, before I learned this Maimer, I said, no. Where does Hashem want to make his Shechina? And the biggest Talmud Chacham, the biggest Rabbi, the biggest Tzaddik? No, the Hashem says, no, I want to make it B'tachtoinim. I want it to be by you. The reason that you think you're furthest from God is the reason why Hashem wants to come into you, wants to be revealed in you. But I know how. How do I bring Hashem into my life? Just like if you have a dark room that's physically dark, you light a candle. We demonstrated a few weeks ago, you light a candle, and the light becomes bright. So too, through learning Torah and performing mitzvahs, we light up our physical environment. It's known from our Chametala that it's much more beautiful to experience one moment of doing tshuva. What tshuva doesn't necessarily mean that because you're doing from sins. Tshuva comes from the shadish toshev. The word tshuva comes from the word toshev, which toshev means to return. What does it mean to return? That originally my soul, my neshama, so you have over here the word teshuva. The root of it is tashev, which means return. What really, an essence, every mitzvah is doing is I'm returning to my real state of consciousness, my real state of being, which is being in tune and aligned with spirituality, because spirituality is the real existence of the world. Why? Because the Chai Olam Haba, which is heaven, Gan Eden, the afterlife, that is it's very pleasurable, it's very limited. But through a mitzvah, I connect to Hashem at his core. And the mashal Alter Rebbe gives in Tanya is that a mitzvah is like hugging the king. When you hug a king, it doesn't really matter how many robes he's wearing. If you hug the king, you hug the king. A mitzvah in this world is like I'm hugging Hashem himself. When after 120 years I go to Gan Eden, there might be without any garments. I'm not. There's no robes. I'm connecting to godliness at its core. But because there's no garments, I'm not able to embrace. Think about looking. We had last year the solar eclipse. In order to look at the solar eclipse, you have to wear these special glasses, or else it can ruin your vision. So to experience ecstasy and total bliss of spiritual energy and light, if you don't have any type of filter, it's going to burn you. So therefore there's a filter. Therefore you experience a very limited slice of spirituality in Gan Eden, in the afterlife. But in the physical world, I'm able to grasp Hashem Himself because there's so much. Because, in other words, the kalkalasenu, zeo takanasenu, our challenge, what messed us up, is really what brings us closer to Hashem. How do I bring this godliness into my life? This is such a beautiful idea, again, because it really flips the whole perspective on its head. I tell myself, because I have a Yetzer Hara, because I have this dirty mind, and I'm always thinking that the world exists on its own, and I'm not thinking about Hashem. It's all about me, my pleasures, my ego, so therefore, it's harder for me to connect to Hashem. It's true, it's hard, but specifically because of that, you're tachtoin, you're the lowest level of conscious. So you could bring Hashem. Hashem is looking to dwell in you. And how do I bring Hashem into me? It's interesting, specifically through my biggest challenges. My dirtiest thoughts, speech, and action, that I control myself and I don't do it. Like I want to take revenge against somebody. I want to do something really disgusting, and I hold myself back. That's what really brings Hashem into my life. Heichal Hashem Heim, I make my body a vessel and a temple for Hashem's infinite energy. Shehu HaYetzer Hara, which that is the Yetzer Hara, my evil inclination, that tries to convince me to do dirty things. Which goes to Torah Ohr Parshas Pikudie, like it says in the Kabbalah in Zohar, when you hold back the other side, then the light of Hashem, the beauty of Hashem, the shine of Hashem shines out. It's systolic. It leaves in all the worlds. So there's basically two steps. The first step is iskafia. Iskafia is, in other words, it's a process. The beginning of the process, the first stage, is my heart still desires. In other words, the fact that I was born in a physical body, it's very hard for me to be conscious of that Hashem is really creating everything. It takes a lot of focus. So in the beginning of the process, I'm not in it. I'm not interested in it. I don't understand it. I don't feel it, and I have to force myself. It's just like coercion. But then afterwards, I transform darkness to light, and the darkness itself, the darkness itself will light. This iskafia that I'm holding myself back is in all my five senses. For example, with vision. The Shulchan Aruch says there's certain things I'm not allowed to look at, and I close my eyes from looking at those visions. And also with listening. Also in speaking of mice and action. Also with thought and the midas of my soul. In other words, there could be situations where al pi halacha, maybe al pi halacha, I don't have to be kind to someone who's mean to me. Technically, maybe I should. Torah says no. Torah says, ligma lechayav miteves. Even though my midas, my five senses, and what psychology tells me is healthy, no, you shouldn't. No, Torah says you have to be nice to this person. Kadesh atzmecha b'mutalach. Even though something is mutter according to Torah, you're allowed to eat the ice cream, you're allowed to have this experience, but think to yourself, 1 second, is this experience an expression of Hashem, or this expression of the world's reality, of the darkness of the world? And therefore I hold myself back from experiencing this pleasure because it's covering up on the experience of revealing God in my life. Through doing this work, as I grow and I progress, I'm going to reach a level of this hapcha where I don't have to fight constantly. The darkness already is transformed to light. They become a vessel for the infinite energy of Hashem. This is what the Navi Yirmiyahu HaKohen says about a Jewish person, says about you and me. They are the temple of Hashem. They are the chamber of Hashem. Your body is the temple of Hashem. Pirish Taich the Alter Rebbe, this is the Alter Rebbe's novel Chiddush interpretation. Why is it the chamber of Hashem? We explained before, last week's parsha, that you have in the Mishkan, you have the Riyas and you have the Kalim. You have the tarp on top, that's the temple for Hashem. Then you have the Lechem Hapanim, the showbread, you have the menorah. So too, through doing Torah mitzvahs, I make my body into a temple for Hashem. I know what this means. Positive and negative mitzvahs are dependent on Shem Havai. She's better to come on mitzvah say b'vavkei. We're going to say later on that the name Yud Kei Vavkei, that the mitzvahs itself the mitzvahs itself is divided into two categories: positive mitzvahs and negative mitzvahs. The positive mitzvahs are in Vavkei, and the negative mitzvahs are in Yudkei. Through performing a positive and negative mitzvah, I make a temple for Hashem, the light of Hashem Mamish. That's the idea that Hashem will dwell in me through, I have to make a chamber for Him. Like we'll explain later on. So in Maimer Zal Sidim Tzadikim Sheim Lifneim Kadesh, this is what our Chacham tell us. Mashiach will come. We're going to say Kadesh. We're going to say to a righteous person, a tzaddik, you are holy. What does that mean? Through fulfilling Torah mitzvahs, you're drawing on your soul the revelation of the infinite energy. It's a fusion of the infinite energy of Hashem's light. The level which is separated from the world. Meaning it's not revealed in the world. You're bringing a new light that's not relative to the world. Because we said 3 weeks ago that there's 3 levels of Kaddish. Every world, from Atzilus, B'riya, Yitzira, Asiya, is another tzimtzum going down. So therefore, since there's 3 different levels of light, growing in intensity, the higher you go, the more powerful the light is. Therefore, it says in the pasuk 3 times, in Yirmiyahu, it says 3 times Heichel Hashem, because I could draw down 3 different energies of Hashem. 3 different intensities. Which that is the 3 garments of the soul. Thought, speech, and action. Through thought, I bring down a higher light. Through speech, I bring down a little lower light. And through action, I bring down even lower light. Maybe the opposite. Through action, I bring a higher light than I would bring down through speech and action. Speech and thought. Through them is dependent, fulfilling all the mitzvahs. We're going to skip the parentheses, 3 lines at the bottom. This means this is the dwelling place in the lower states of consciousness. That my soul, specifically my neshama, in other words, specifically when you're challenged, specifically when you're challenging to trust in Hashem, you're challenging to do the right thing. In that moment, I tell myself, oh, now the fact that I have a challenge is a sign that I'm as far as I can be from Hashem. So you are, in a certain sense, far from Hashem. The fact that you have this challenge, you're batachtoinim. But that doesn't mean you should just give up. Just the opposite. Because you're in tachtoinim, now because of that, you could make a dira for the Eibishter. You're able to make a dwelling place for Hashem because you're solo. That's what like it says, in your midst, holy. Hashem wants to make holiness in your midst. Not in some mountain, like the Buddhists say, on a mountain somewhere. Hashem wants to make it in your dirty mind, in your dirty house. He wants to make that place, transform it, clean it up, and make it a holy place for Hashem. That's what Hashem says, you know what? I'm going to dwell specifically in you. For the reasons that you think I don't want to dwell in you, that's why I want to dwell in you. And through this, how do I bring Hashem into my life? Through iskafia and sitracha. Through iskafia sitracha, holding back the other side, by not doing, by turning away from bad and doing good. So we have a gift over here, a kitzer, which summarizes this whole sif. Kitzer in Mishkan. Fine. So we discussed that Hashem wants to make a dwelling place in the lowest world, and in the fact that I'm living in a low state of consciousness. Hashem wants me to now, first of all, start step 1, even though I don't feel it, but I should force myself in my 5 chushim, which those 5 chushim are the gateway to my lowest state of consciousness, meaning I could see something, I could smell it, I could taste it, I could hear it, I could feel it. Hashem says, in those situations, don't follow your 5 senses. Follow your guide. I am your guide. And when you follow me, you're going to bring me into your life. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to dissect what the Zohar says, the Kabbalah. The whole idea of Chabad chasidus is the Sparnus online. We take Kabbalah, which the whole idea of Kabbalah became almost a verb. It's Kabbalistic, meaning I can't understand it. It's esoteric. It's cryptic. And Chabad chasidus, the Alter Rebbe took that Kabbalah and brought it in a way, the Sparnus online, that I could understand in my Chochmah bin Adas. So the Alter Rebbe now is going to take this line from the Zohar, which describes what happens when I hold myself back from not looking where I shouldn't look, not saying what I shouldn't say, not tasting what I shouldn't taste, not hearing or touching. The Alter Rebbe says when you do that, you bring down a certain light. The Alter Rebbe is going to explain it in a way that we can understand what every term means. Why? We have to understand, says Alter Rebbe, we have to understand why is Hashem's energy happening specifically when I hold back Sitra Achra. Seemingly it should be the opposite. Meaning, imagine you met someone and he tells you, you know why I'm so special? I didn't kill, I didn't steal, I didn't rape, I didn't murder. You'll be like, okay, very nice, but what did you accomplish? If we're talking about bringing Hashem into my life, okay, so don't do the negative mitzvahs. But l'chayra, bringing in the light should be the positive mitzvahs. But from the Zohar it says no. Kadiskafi sitra achra, when I hold back the sitra achra, when I don't do a loisasa, then I bring in the dira b'tachtoinim. Why dafka when holding back the sitra achra? Sitra achra doesn't really take any space in the Seder Ishtalshalus, like it's known. Like it says, King Solomon, King Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of the wise, and the deepest of the deep, and the sweetest of the sweet, said that in the king's palace, you have his throne, and to get into the king's palace, there's guards outside with shiny swords, and they don't let everybody in. And even if you got past the first guards, there's guards in the hallway, guards by the next door, till you come to the king's chamber, there's guards by the door, there's guards by the king. It's very tight security. No matter how tight the security is, you're always going to find a spider in the corner. And the spider symbolizes Klippa. Klippa always has a way of slipping in. Meaning to say, because the spider is not so relevant, we don't pay attention to it. In other words, the spider is not a threat to the king's kingdom. Someone who's coming in who want to hurt the king, want to make a revolution, want to kill the king, harm the king and take over the kingdom, that's when we have guards outside. But for the Sitra Achra, so we're making a big deal that you killed the spider? The idea is to understand that we have to understand the root. What is the reason why Hashem even said, like we started off this class, Hashem really cares if I have a crumb of chametz in my house? It really makes a difference. Come on, the main thing is I should eat matzah, I should drink the wine. It's known what it says in Tikkunei Zohar, B'Akdama, in the Kabbalistic script of Samach Beis, Pasuk Zeh Shmi La'olam Zeh Zichri Shmi Yud Kei Shasar L'Isaseh, which this is basically, it's the gematria. It says, the Pasuk says, Zeh Shmi La'olam Zeh Zichri. So Shmi Yud Kei, if you add Shmi plus Yud Kei, the gematria is going to be Shasa. 365. So the shin is 300. This is 40, 50. Right? Hey is 5 and Yud is 10. So together, 365. Shin is 300, Samach is 60. And the Hey is 5. You see that? 365. So you have 365. Shmi with Yud K refers to the 365 negative mitzvahs. Vav came Zichri, and then we have Zichri plus Vav K, that equals Ramach Mitzvah Say. Ramach Mitzvah Say. So Zichri is 7. Zichri is 7. Chav is 20. Reish is 200. Which Reish cancels that out. Vav is 6. And Hey is 5. So we have 220. Now it gets a little complicated. So we have 5, 6, 7. I'm just going to cancel this out to make it 666. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 2 is 18. So we have 18 over here. 220. Oh, there's a 10 over here. I didn't see. The Yud is 10. 20, 30, 48. We have 248. Zichri with Yud-K is 248. And Ramach is Reish is 200. This is supposed to be a Mem. Mem is 40 and Ches is 8. 248. So there's a significance that Shmi, my name, with Vav-K equals the negative mitzvahs. And the Vav-K with Zichri equals the positive mitzvahs. So now, what's the significance? We know that Kabbalistically, whatever comes first, we explained this many times already, but I'll reiterate it again, is that a name and a word in Lashon HaKodesh is not just a random word. The word is the code, it's the energy of Hashem that's coming into the word or into the object. So if I have the first name Yud K and the last letters of Vav K, Yud is most of the energy. It's the dot, it's the seed. From the Yud, it gets extrapolated to the Vav. So the Yud and Vav are the more powerful, more holier, more potent letters. Vav K is the lower one. So we see that the negative mitzvahs bring down a bigger light, because it's the Yud K, the first 2 letters of Shem Yud K Vav K. Yud K who's Shem Bifnei Atzmei. Not only that, Yud K is a name for itself. Gam Pirish Yehei Shmei Rabba. Yesh Mefarshim Shem Yud K Rabba Chulei. When it says Yehei Shmei Rabba, Yud K itself is a name for itself. Yehei Shmei Rabba, Yehei is Yud Hey Aleph. The name Yud K should become great. It's referring to the name Yud K. The Halal Ka, Halaluka, we say the Halaluka's praise Yud K, which is Hashem's name. Also, Shmi is higher than Zichri. Fine, the Alter Rebbe has sources for it. If so, the Loisa has a higher source than Aseh. How do we see that? Because the bigger the sin, the bigger the damage, the longer it takes to repair. If you didn't do an Aseh, you didn't do a mitzvah Aseh, and you do tshuva, the halacha is right away you're forgiven. But if I did a leisa, now even though I did tshuva, it doesn't go away right away. Wait till Yom Kippur. By Yom Kippur, then you get forgiven. So we see that it's harder to fix a leisa because it's a higher ticket damage. Because an Aveira, when I don't do the Aveira, I draw down from Yud K, which is a higher light. Says the Alter Rebbe, this is wondrous. How could you say such a thing? It's mind-boggling to say this. Seemingly, when I do a positive mitzvah, it's like turning on the light. When I turn on the light, I'm bringing light into the world. That should be brighter. Leisa says I'm not hurting the light. I'm not breaking the light. Okay, it's important not to ruin the light. But what seemingly brings more light? Turning on the light or making sure not to break the light? It's like there was this once teacher that he said, an English teacher, he was driving. So the next year he was in the Catskills in the summer. The next year he comes back to this school and says, boys, Yankel and Baruch, you owe your life to me. I saved your life. They said, well, how do you save my life? He said, you remember you were walking on the side of the highway and I didn't hit you? I wanted to hit you because you made so much trouble, but I didn't hit you, so I saved your life. That's called saving your life. That's not saving your life. How could it be a loisase is stronger than an aseh? Through drawing down doing a positive mitzvah, I'm drawing down. It's called there's 248 mitzvahs because there's 248 limbs in a person, which signify that when I do a mitzvah, I'm bringing down a light, just like the soul. There's 248 limbs, and there's, so to speak, 248 components of the soul. Each one invests itself and clothes itself into a different aver, a different limb. So too, every mitzvah I do, I'm bringing down a different light. And when Elisa said, there's no action that you're doing. You sat and you didn't do anything. So kol hakavod, we're appreciative. You didn't pop the hot air balloon, and we're still flying. But how is that greater than building the hot air balloon? The idea is says the Alter Rebbe, no, really, I got it all wrong. It's really, that's the answer. Meaning to say, everything in the spiritual world is the opposite in the physical world. Whatever's there was once a rabbi, it says in the Talmud, the Gemara, that he passed away. When he came to Shemayim, came to heaven, he had what's called a near-death experience. And he came back alive. And he told his father, he said, Dad, I don't know. When I came to the next world, when I was hovering between two worlds, I saw a topsy-turvy world. It was upside down. Whoever was important in this world, over there was not even noticed. Nobody noticed in this world, in the spiritual world, everyone gave them so much respect. Whoever in this world looked simple, in the Olam HaEmes, in the world of truth, they were so special and so holy. Whoever in this world looked so holy, in the world of truth came to the truth that they weren't so holy. His father told him very wisely. He said, my son, you didn't see an upside down world. Olam Barur Isa, you saw clarity. You saw the world for what the world really is. Because we live in a world that's camouflage. Everyone puts on makeup, we put on a costume, we put on a mask, and we show the world a mask and a costume. But in Olam HaEmes, when everyone passes away, everyone wears the same tachrichim, the same shrouds. There's no hiding. You can't wear socks to the grave, even. You just come as who you are, without any costumes, without any masks, without any makeup. Now the Rebbe says the same thing applies to bringing down light. In this world, the bigger the company, the smarter I am, the bigger the project, the more money, the bigger the singer, I could produce much more. The bigger the factory, I can produce much more items. But when we're trying to bring down spiritual energy from a higher world, says the Alter Rebbe, it's the opposite. The fact that you could actually do something to bring down this light is an indication it's a very limited light. Because you're able to bring it down and it fits inside your mitzvah. Okay, you put on tefillin, it's a beautiful thing. You're bringing down light from a spiritual world into this world is beautiful. But the fact that you're putting on tefillin, and the tefillin is a keli, it's a vessel for this light, is an indication that the light you're bringing down is limited. The fact of a loisase is saying, I cannot do anything to bring down. It's like, if something's on the top shelf, you can't reach it, you have to ask your father to bring it down to you. No matter how much you're going to stretch, you're not going to reach the cookie jar on the top shelf. A loisase is like getting the cookie jar from the top shelf. Hashem is bringing it down for you himself. Hashem is just saying, don't knock over the chair when I'm getting it for you. That's loisase. Loisase is Hashem saying, you know what? Do me a favor, as I'm giving you what you need, don't knock over the chair, because then I won't be able to get it for you. Let's look inside and see it inside. That we'll understand the first with the 240. The positive mitzvahs are compared to the 248 mitzvahs, which they are like the limbs which the blood goes through them. What does limbs mean? A limb is a vessel for the energy of the soul, of the nefesh. Like the ability to theorize and philosophize and understand something. It's enclosed specifically in the brain. My action is enclosed in my hands. It's explained in Tanya. Sefer Shabbeinanim in chapter, the first volume. There's 4 sections. Section 1, chapter 51. That really the nefesh, the soul, the neshama is so deep and so vast that the nefesh that encloses itself in the body is a limited expression of it. It's like a drop in the ocean, the tip of the iceberg. Because the soul itself, the neshama itself, cannot be divided into 248 limbs, the 248 components. And also its revelations are closed in the brain. And a ray is shining to all the limbs. And each limb gets the energy that it needs for itself, based on its makeup. Nevertheless, all the energy that's enclosed in my hand, in my brain, in my eyes, in my mouth, it's one with the core of the soul, and it's one. Because when I speak, it's not just the koyach of speech, it's my nefesh itself that's speaking. When the soul leaves the body, all the abilities that the nefesh was extending to the body, now it leaves the body. So in other words, if the part of the nefesh, the very slim, the tip of the iceberg that gets enclosed in my 248 limbs, if they were separate, like pouring water into a cup, then even if the nefesh leaves, they would still be able to function. But since even when it's enclosed in the body, it's one with the nefesh, so when the nefesh leaves, it leaves with the nefesh. Nevertheless, each one is in its own aver. In the mind is in the brain, the koyach adibur is in the mouth. So the way the Eibishter created this way, and the reason why the Zohar compares Mitzvah Aseh to Ramach Evarim is a mashal. Of course, Hashem ein le guf, ein le demusa guf. But the Torah, Dibra Torah, Koloshin b'nei Adam, Torah speaks in the terminology that a person can understand. L'shachech esa'izin ma'ashi yechayel lishmaya. That I could understand and can relate to what the subject matter that we're talking about. The Malka, what's the idea of the 248 limbs of the king? Like it's the known saying of Kabbalah, Ihu v'chayu hichad, that him and it and its chayus are one. What does that mean? Ihu v'garmu hichad. It and its energy is one. It and its vessels are one. Ki chayuhi hu'er v'chayus imshach b'nitziv baruch hu. Chayuhi, the energy, is a light that comes from Hashem. The infinite energy of Hashem. To be enclosed in this vessel of chesed. Chesed is called the right arm. So in other words, think about it, that you have the color. I'll give you an example with the light behind me. The light behind me really is white. You see the color behind me, it's white. That is a mashal for the Ein Sof. There's no characteristics. Now, if I change the color, now it's orange. Now it's yellowish. Now it's one shade of green, and there's purple, here's light blue, here's purple, here's red, here's yellowish, whatever. Chulu. Now, what happens? Why is there different colors? Different colors don't change the light itself. The light itself stays the light that it was the whole time. But there's something that changes it. There's a cover on the light that limits it to be only a certain color. But the light that goes through the lens, the green lens, is the exact same light that's there with before the lens, without the lens. You can't differentiate and separate and say, oh, this is one type of light, that's another type of light. It's the same light, but it's filtered through the lens and only lets you see the green rays. So too, Hashem's energy is infinite. And in the world of Atzilus, when Hashem started creating the Midas, the Chesed, so the light of Chesed goes through the Skeli and becomes one with it. the pashut, which is pashut. Pashut is the light that's white, that's clear. Because Hashem really is not on his own. He doesn't have any color. Not because he's boring, because color is a limit for him. He's limitless. If so, him and the energy is one. That, in other words, the light really is not a new creation, it's an expression of him. He's just limiting, he's not letting us see the whole experience. I'm only seeing the green spectrum. Just like the mashal that my soul, that even though the koyach hadibur is in my mouth, but even though it's in my mouth, it's still one with the core of my nefesh. That's my nefesh. Hashem and his midah of chesed is miyuchad b'tachlis. The light that's coming from my light bulb now, that's green, is not pshat. It's a whole separate light. It's the same light, and the light is one with the color now. You can't differentiate and say, oh, there's a clear light now, and there's a green color. No, it's one color. And it's completely one. That the infinite light, in other words, what do you mean infinite light? This light now behind me could be any color. Any color I cover up on it. It could be this color, it could be that color, it could be this color, another color, another color, another color. Limitless amounts of colors. Once I cover with a certain shade, now it's limited by what color it could be. So how do I cause it that the light that's colorless, that has infinite abilities of what it should express itself? In other words, so to speak, Hashem really, be'etzem, his light is like this. The color in the back is clear. But I want to bring Hashem into the world. I want Hashem to get involved with my life. I want it to be, let's say, green color or blue color. What do? When I do mitzvah of chesed, I, so to speak, ma'ir from Hashem, he should also be mislavish and limit himself to only the light of chesed. I drew down kindness, which is the right arm. Through fulfilling the mitzvah of dinim. In other words, of being tough and being strict. Draws down gvura, the left arm. So too, I make awakening from below, like we explained last week. Awakening from below is I make the initiative. It's dark and I'm not motivated, and I want to do what my dirty thoughts are, my physical pleasures, my physical desires, my five senses, and I say, you know what? I'm going to hold back my yitzhara. I'm going to do clean things, light things, not dark things. Which that's also gvura. Chachamim tell us who's a giber, someone who's kevish yitzhara. This will understand also the advantage of keeping Torah mitzvah, of learning Torah and all other mitzvahs. There are two levels, even in the Ramach Evarim. There are two levels in that itself. In other words, if somebody gets stabbed or poked or gets cut on his arm, he's not going to die from that. We're going to say soon. But there's halachas of treifas. Halacha is that if a behema treifa basada, you find an animal, let's say that a bear or a wolf, try to grab it and try to kill it, but then the shepherd came with a stick and chased the wolf away. But meanwhile, you see that the sheep is ripped apart, still alive, but it got the nails of the wolf and ripped a little bit in his eivarim pnimiyim, his lung, his stomach, his intestine, his heart. So it's going to live, but it's not going to live for less. It's going to live less than 12 months. Such an animal is not kosher. There was once, the Rebbe said a story. There was once this lady that brought a chicken to the Rav, asking him if it's kosher. And the Rav said, I don't know. I never saw a chicken stomach. I don't know which is called a pipik in Yiddish. I never saw a needle. Those days, not everybody had needles, and the Rabbi was busy in the books. He said, the halacha says, if this is a stomach and that's a needle, then it's treif. You can't eat it. Because this tiniest hole, even the size of a needle. That I was saying the story in relevance that when you learn halacha, it's not enough just to learn the books. You have to also know practicality. You have to know how a stomach of a chicken looks. You have to know how a needle looks. You have to know the practicalities of halacha. So a needle is a very tiny hole. It's the sign of a needle. It's a point. But if it pokes someone's heart, an animal's heart, it can be very damaging. So that's what the Rebbe is saying. There's a difference of Ivarim Pnimim and Ivarim Chitzonim. The Ivarim Pnimim, the inner limbs over there, it's enclosed much more of a pnimis, inner energy than the Ivarim Chitzonim. Therefore, most Ivarim Pnimim get a bullet shot in one of your major organs, the person is dead, basically. A person could cut off his whole arm, it shouldn't happen to any Yid, and he'll still survive. Even though we say before, Hashem doesn't have a body, doesn't even have anything similar to a body. Nevertheless, Torah speaks in the language of man. There is some sort of inner and outer energy. Learning Torah is the inner limbs. Like we said last week, that Torah comes out of Chachma. It says by wisdom that the wisdom of a person shines on his face, not because he has a light shining on him, because the wisdom is shining through it. Our sages tell us that Rebbe Vo, when he would find a new Tesefta, a new book, a new learning, his face would shine out of joy, out of wisdom. Through that, the face shines. Meaning, when I learn Torah, when you learn Torah, you, so to speak, make Hashem's face shine to you. Like a birchas kohen is, the kohen gives a bracha, Yor Hashem panav elecha, Hashem should shine his face to you. How do I accomplish that? Through learning Torah. Like our sages tell us, whenever you sit and learn Torah, or you say Mishnayos Balpeh when you walk down the street, when you're driving in the car, you say Mishnayos Balpeh. You're influencing that Hashem should, so to speak, be right in front of you and repeating the Torah himself. What does that mean? What it means practically, Kabbalistically, that the infinite energy of Hashem is shining a new light into Chachma Elah, which is Chachma Vatzilus, the higher spiritual world. Because Hashem on his own has nothing to do with Chachma. He's like he's like the light that's colorless. Chachma, in other words, just like we said before, everything in this world is the opposite in spiritual reality. So in this world, the highest level of a person, that he's very intelligent. For Hashem, Alter Rebbe says in Perek Vav Tanya, intelligence is a yerida for the Eibishter. To say that he's a chacham is a yerida, because that's just a finite expression of his vast, unlimited infinity. That's revealing Hashem's inner. That's what it says, that Hashem gave us the Torah's Chaim Dafka Ba'or Panecha. We describe Hashem giving us the Torah Dafka with the shining of his face, because Torah is a more pnimius dike or. When I'm busy with doing mitzvahs, then I draw down the Ivarim Chitzonim. For example, through giving a penny to tzedakah, now there's no pennies, it's a dime. I draw down kindness in the right arm. Therefore, learning Torah is equal to everything. Being that Torah, the halacha is, there's obviously exceptions, that in general, learning Torah overrides every other mitzvah. If there's any other mitzvah that you have opportunity to accomplish, to do, to practice, learning Torah trumps it all. Because, like I said, if you have to protect your body or give nutrients to your body, you want to protect the Ivarim Pnimiyim, your heart, your lung is the most important to protect. He killed me out. He made the zok. Let's get the parentheses. And this is what it says, that what's hidden is to Hashem. What's revealed is for us and our children. In Torah mitzvahs, Eisis Vavke. The Vavke, which is mitzvahs, which is revealed, is where I'm able to make a difference. Shebeshem Havaya. Havav, who basic Torah. The Vav is learning Torah. Sheyah Kadosh Baruch Hu Kodev V'Shirei Kenegdei. which that is Hashem should, because the Vav refers to Hamshacha. The letter Vav, I explained it I think 2 weeks ago, the letter Vav, you have the Yud, which the Yud is a little dot, Koitze Shayud, which is bringing down from the Koitze Shayud, from infinity down into a tiny little Koitze Shayud, and then it comes down to a Yud, which is a tiny little dot. And then I want to draw down this dot to a lower level. That's a Vav. What is a Vav? A Vav is really a Yud that schlepped down. I schlepped down the energy. That's what our Chachamim tell us when I learn Torah, I'm drawing down Hashem to me. So Vav indicates learning Torah. Then I have the Hey. And Hey is action of mitzvahs, because when it comes to Hey, I'm not just thinking. When it comes to Torah, I'm thinking, which is the top, and there's Vav, which is bringing it down. But this little line by the Hey is separate from the roof, meaning there's a so to speak concealment in between. Action is separated from thought and speech. When I throw something out of my hand, I lose control over it, even though I lose control over a word. But it shows a separation of action. So Hey refers to the actual mitzvahs. Vav K is referring to mitzvahs. Anigleis lanul vanenu. The nigleis, the revealed part, the ivarim chitzonium, that's for me, that's in my hands. Fine. So kitzur in shmim yudke. We're going to do the kitzur tomorrow before we learn it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And remember that not only you could bring Hashem into your life, despite the darkness of your soul, despite the thoughts that you don't want nobody to know about, and the speech and the things that you do but because of that, you can bring Hashem into you. Specifically, Hashem wants a dira batachtonim. He wants to be in your house, in your car, and He wants your body to be a temple for His light by holding back on thought, speech, the 5 senses. Not looking at something I shouldn't look, not saying something I shouldn't say, not smelling something I shouldn't smell, not hearing something I shouldn't hear, and not touching something I shouldn't touch. Have a wonderful day, my friend.